brief video update here. Currently, the Super Magna is back here under the cover, and I've had it out. I've started it up. I checked all the pressures and the oil and the tires and whatnot, and it's ready to go for the season. But I may not ride it that much this season because, if you notice the big orange bike here, I bought a Triumph Speed 4. It's a 2003 Triumph Speed 4. I wanted something I could ride most daily without having to worry about putting so many miles on the Super, because finding parts for the Super Magna gets more and more difficult every year, and while my bike is in good running order, I would like to keep it that way for as long as possible. Having the Triumph is going to allow me to take apart the Magna and get the tank and the fenders and all the plastic and the tins painted up, because they're pretty beat up. I mean, the bike's an 88. And the paint's just worn out. There's a couple of dings and scratches in it. Nothing you can really polish up. Also, it gives me a chance to go in and take apart any other little bits. I'm not making it like a showroom restoration. I'm just certain things I want to fix up and polish or repaint. So, what have I been up to? Well, other than work and going nuts, a lot of work. Mel's bike is still sitting there relatively untouched because we had a really long, cold, crappy winter here in Michigan. And while it's well into April, I think it's the 21st today, well, this weekend we had some warm weather, but today it's back down in the 40s and 50s with wind and rain and pretty crappy. So I'm out in the garage and just thought I'd share with you some of the work I've done on the Speedy. I thought I would start out with taking a good drink of a proper English ale here. It's not quite the color of the bike. I mean, there's some orange on the label there, but still good nonetheless. But here's a Speedy. Well, first thing is this seat cowl here. The original one, well, this is the original one, but originally it didn't have these screws on the side. It's a stainless steel screw. It's an M6, this Durlin washer, and there's a rubber grommet underneath that. And what I did was I took, these are common hardware store L brackets. I pressed them flat in a bench vise and then hammered them to the proper angle. It's not just a 90-degree bend. There's an angle with the taper of the seat, and then there's an angle that matches the curvature of the cowl. And what you can't see is there's a grommet on the back side with a nylock M6 bolt there that holds this whole assembly together. This bolt and this washer is actually what held on the little strap that used to go around the seat. I just repurposed those, and now that's nicely solidly mounted on there. It's not going anywhere. Next up here is rear view mirrors. Now this is a Bike Master quote unquote old school mirror, though it looks pretty damn modern to me. This is the original mirror that Triumph had on this bike. This big, ginormous, honking plastic POS. I figured out why my Speedy only had one. And if you look here, you can see that the original stud has broken off. Now the bike has never been laid down. There's no evidence of damage anywhere. So the only thing I can think of is somebody bumped into the bike hard enough and that aluminum casting sheared off. Now this looks like a standard handlebar mount clamp with an integrated M10 bar or rear view mirror mount. The problem is that Triumph made theirs a little different. It's actually not, this part that's split is not directly on the center line. So you can't use an aftermarket one, you have to use a Triumph one. And in US dollars, that set me back about 35 bucks for a piece of aluminum. Really silly, but I tried bar end mirrors on this bike and I really didn't like them because of the angle that they're at. I haven't really adjusted these yet, but this, I mean, you can obviously you can rotate them around their mounting point, but this is the key part here. I can pivot these. Haven't decided really where I want to mount them yet. It'd be nice to keep them low like they were bar end mirrors but attached up here, but I need to be able to see what I'm doing. These are the bar end mirrors I got off of Amazon, and they are crap. They're $40 crap, but the reason why they're crap is that the mirror itself is made pretty well. And if I offer it up here, you can see it's the Bike Master mirror is not too much bigger, and they're both aluminum. But this clamping system here, if there was no taper to my bar end, I could use this. And the Triumph Speed 4's handlebars, the clip-ons, have a welded plug that's threaded, so you can't use the expansion bolt that goes in there to hold it in place. The problem these have is that to use these adapters here, you have to use these Durlin, I guess they're Durlin or nylon bushings, and no matter how tight you tighten the retaining bolt, you can easily just bump it and the mirror move. I mean, it's ridiculous how crappy these are. And because I had already opened them and everything else, I won't be able to send them back. But I could probably figure out how to use them on something else. If not, I have them here. I can always try and Craigslist them off or whatnot, but they didn't come wrapped very well either, I might add. So there's little tiny chips here and there. All in all, that was an epic fail. Thank you, Amazon. You can suck it. I went and replaced this with a clutch cable with a Slinky Glide clutch cable, because the original one had chafed all the way through the armor of the housing. And I get around here on this side of the bike. Clutch cable passes through the frame here at the steering head. It comes out here and loops around. And I actually took a piece of fuel hose, even on the new one, this 5/16 fuel hose, and split it down one side and used it as a shielding for the new Slinky Glide cable. But this is where they wear out on the TT600s and the Speed 4. On the head tube where they stamp the VIN number for the bike, there's a sharp edge, and the damn clutch cable, and this is the only way to route it unless you use a longer clutch cable with a straight tube, it rubs right up against that. And so my little solution with the radiator hose, or not radiator, my little solution with the fuel hose here, in addition to a Slinky Glide cable, has pretty much solved all my little weird clutch issues. This cable housing here has a nifty nylon sleeve on the inside, and it's a stainless steel housing, and I believe the cable is even stainless steel. It's really well made. It's a little bit more expensive than the factory cable, but you don't need to slather it up with oil to make it work properly, because it's essentially self-lubricating with the sleeve. But I still sprayed a little bit of lithium grease down there, but didn't really need it. And I have just enough free play on there. Is that the original owner removed all the turn signals, made his own tail tidy, and then binned all the parts. Got rid of them, threw them away. So I had to fabricate, well, first I had to buy new turn signals. These are just standard DOT approved LED cluster turn signal assemblies. It is amber, even though it looks clear. The LEDs are actually amber. I actually reused the holes here that Triumph had for their turn signal mounts. This is an index pin, and then that's an M6 screw up there that holds it. But this is just angle channel. You buy it at the hardware store, and I cut it, shaped it, drilled a couple of through holes on it just so it looked cool, and I used it to mount the turn signal, and I spaced it so that the signal just barely sticks out past the side of the radiator. On the original Triumph turn signal, the indicators stick out about that much further, plus the lens is like this big. They're huge, so by comparison it's much nicer. You can see even on the side with the radiator cap, it tucks in nicely. The other problem I had was the original wiring, which should have terminated right about here with the plugs, was clipped all the way back to the head of the wiring harness. So I had to take the tank off, I had to take the air box out, I had to splice in a connector and extend the wiring leads. So now I have a proper amount of wire coming from the indicator, and then that's all heat shrunk. And you can't build this up too much, because in order to make it serviceable, the nut has to go over the top of the wire. And also the bullet connectors I used had to be small enough to fit through. They're 18 gauge is what I used, and it seemed to work fine. Once again, you know, this is I think I sanded this up to 220 and just left it. And if that kind of satin finish holds up well, I don't think I'm going to powder coat or paint them. In the back, I had the same problem. This fender used to come down a lot further and had a whole lot more plastic and a little metal pieces in here that the original signals would locate to. And the original owner, from right about here, cut all of the fender off, made his own tail tidy, and ditched the turn signals, and then clipped the damn wiring harness again. So just like the front, I had to fabricate some bracketry here, and I cross drilled and chamfered some holes, try to make it look nice, and only have as much material there as needed to do the job, so that, you know, we don't have a lot sticking out, just the indicator. Then, because I didn't like the way the license plate was mounted just by a couple through holes on the plastic, inside it there's a plate doubler, and I had to use these spacers because the top of this plastic was never meant to hold the plate. The plate actually originally was mounted down further. So in order to keep the plate flat, I had to make aluminum spacers, and then these are all M6 stainless steel metric bolts with washers and nylocks. And once again, I had to make wiring harness extensions to get the wire leads to the harness, and then test it and make sure it all works. But it's held in there. There's another piece of aluminum in there that acts as a plate doubler, so that when it's bolted together it squishes and reinforces that ABS plastic. Because otherwise it wouldn't be strong enough to hold this plate. It would just kind of flop around as you're riding down the road. If I hit the indicators now, you can see I have working turn signals on my bike again. And they have a LED on the end too, which is kind of cool, because that gives you some side indication that something's going on. There's actually an LED right on the side of this. And all four of those is about 20 bucks that I bought them off of Amazon. Now you can hear it blinking away rapidly. It's hyper flashing. And the reason why it's doing that is because the load of those turn signals is not as great as the original bulbs. And I had load resistors. Well, you can't even see the wiring I did. This is actually extra length, and I had heat shrinked the wiring for the turn signals. This extra length here, I ran out of heat shrink tubing, so I had to just tape it up. And then here's the factory block off plug for the alarm system that they do not offer in the States. So they make up a little plug with some jumpers on it so that the bike still functions correctly without the alarm. But I tried the load resistors for the hyper flashing on the indicators, and I found out that what happened was they were such, it added so much more resistance that not all the LED bulbs would come on. The blink rate was correct, but the bulbs wouldn't come on. So what I've done is I've ordered an LED flasher unit from superbrightleds.com, and I believe that's the flasher. I could be wrong. I'm just replacing the flasher with one that's fully electronic, and it won't click anymore, but it won't hyper flash either. Lights here. There we go. So the last thing I did so far is the gauge cluster, the light bulbs, were kind of dim. I think one of them was actually burned out, and I had some LEDs left over from my working on my Honda Super Magna, and lo and behold, I had a couple that were exactly the right size to fit inside here. There's actually two. There's one that mounts here and another one that's up over here, and then there's like a little reflector to kind of diffuse the light. It's cool because it actually changed the color of the LCD display. It's actually now a nice blue instead of like the pale yellow that it used to be. And the gauges are nice and bright and easy to read. I also replaced the bulbs and my high and low beam, my passing lights. And the reason why I did is because it was pretty dirty back behind these housings, and as halogens get older they tend to turn yellow. The other thing I had to do was you gotta turn handlebars to do this, but the parking light feature didn't work because both of these little bulbs were burned out, and it's kind of nice. I like to have it all working, so I just went in there, and since I had the bulbs apart, I cleaned it out and sorted it all out. Took the time to polish up the housings so they're nice and shiny again. And I'm just going through the Speedy little bits at a time, cleaning it up. So all in all, she's pretty good. Tires are getting a little worn, but I still have good tread for now. They just need to be cleaned up. The guy who owned this bike lived down a dirt road, not very far from a main road, so the bike didn't see that much dirt. But there's, it's basically clean on the outside. There's some areas that I want to get in there with some simple green and scrub away. Bike runs fine, fires right up. Haven't had any issues with it. The clutch is nice, it's solid. I do need to change my brake fluid out, which is on my to-do list. It's getting a little dark. That should be clear, almost like urine, because it looks like a piss cup, so it should be about piss color. That's what healthy brake fluid should look like. I think I got a really good deal, and I'm pretty happy with the bike. Can't wait to start riding it. I am waiting for Triumph, who has now shipped this part but has not arrived yet. I'm waiting on super bright LEDs to send me my relays. I've also ordered some replacement 1157 LED units for the taillights because they're much brighter than the original ones. And that's another thing to take some of the load off the system. What else? Other than cleaning it, and it's just simple polish and wax and cleaning. I mean, it's not like the bike has any real damage on it. I got it for a song, so I can't complain. The little things I've had to fix have been pretty easy. I need to lube up the chain. The links seem fine. No excessive wear in it. Probably next year I'm going to change new chain and sprockets, and there's a rub strip here that tends to wear out on the Triumphs pretty bad because the angle of the chain where it meets the front sprocket gets very close to that rub strip. I don't know what size front and rear is on here. I know they're the original ones. I think if I look here, I think that one's stamped 45. I'm going to go a 47 on the back, and I'm going to go a 15 on the front. This one has a 14. And that's still within an acceptable range for this bike. I can actually take it to the Triumph dealer and they can reset the speed sensor to correct my speedometer. Oh yeah, I had to find a chain guard on eBay because previous owner took it off, threw it away like all the other parts. And I really don't want chain lube splattering all over the nice paintwork after I get it all cleaned up. There it is, all M-Dot orange. People in Michigan will get that joke. M-Dot is Michigan Department of Transportation, and this is kind of the same orange that their road service trucks are, even though it's called Tangerine Orange by Triumph. I think it's cool. They sure as hell cagers won't miss me riding down the road now, will they? So that's it for this video. As the weather warms up and the season gets further along, there'll be more videos. There's always something to do on a bike. Also, I plan on doing quite a few long rides here on the Speedy, and I'm gonna get some sport bike luggage for it. I think Joe Rocket makes a pretty decent set. Tour Master is probably what I end up buying. I'm gonna see about getting the Magna painted, because I found out that my local Triumph dealer, or the one that's local to where I work, they have a custom paint shop, and they do OEM quality paint that doesn't cost a fortune, believe it or not. So that's perfect for my Super Magna. I can pull the parts off of it, drain the fuel out of the tank, take it there and get a good quality paint job on it that won't set me back. Well, that's it for the video update for right now. Hopefully it won't be so long between videos in the future, but you know, stuff happens, and we do the best we can. But everyone stay safe out there when you're riding, and thanks for watching.